Good morning, everybody. Thanks for taking time to come to this session. I see a lot of familiar faces, so that's great. Good to see that there's a lot of interest in this mainframe modernization. We'll talk about Santander's journey to moving mainframe workloads to cloud. But before that, let me just briefly introduce you to the other two speakers with me. First is Alejandro from Santander. He is the director of the Gravity project in Santander, and he's part of the CIO team. And he'll be talking to us today about their experience and the journey to actually migrating mainframe workloads to GCP. Along with him is Brian Lee, who is the chief architect for Dualrun within Google. And myself, Rajesh Ramachandran, I lead the mainframe modernization practice globally in Google. So as far as an agenda is concerned, I have three topics there. Initially, I want to talk about the mainframe modernization approach from a Google point of view, what we think about it, how we approach it, what we've heard from customers, and how we tell customers to approach their problems. Second is I'll double-click a little bit on the Google solutions. I know that 45 minutes is not enough time to actually do justice to all the topics here. So we'll be glad to have some follow-up sessions with you guys to answer any more questions. Third, Santander will talk about their journey. So that will be the third session that will be there. And then we'll have about 10 minutes for Q&A. And again, since there is a lot of people here, if there's more questions, we can always have a follow-up session with you guys. So mainframe modernization from a Google point of view, right? So I don't know how many of you have actually stuck in this island that we see, right? From a mainframe point of view, a lot of customers have been building this. It's a great platform, by the way, right? I mean, nothing wrong about the platform. It's a phenomenal platform. It runs core businesses for a lot of customers. And I've worked on the platform in the past, and I understand the value of the platform. But modern days, people are looking to see how to improve efficiency, increase productivity, create value, drive innovation, reduce cost. While they want to do this, the challenges that customers have, right, is, I'm pretty sure a lot of you can relate to these challenges, right? Talent drain, cost, shrinking talent pool. But while you have all of these challenges, customers also want to migrate or modernize pretty quickly off the mainframe, right? They don't want to take 10 years, 15 years to migrate what they built over 50 years, right? So they want to do that much faster. And of course, they want to do minimal risk. They want to be cost effective. And then on top of it, they want the same qualities of service that the mainframe is famous for, right? That's very important. I just want to stress on one thing about GCP. While mainframe has extraordinary qualities of service, GCP also has the similar qualities of service, right? Just like how if you run a program on the mainframe, you inherit all the capabilities of the mainframe from a high availability point of view, from a security point of view, all of that. You get the same qualities of service on GCP. Just by putting some workload on GCP, you inherit a lot of infrastructure capabilities that Google has built. So that's a very important point that I wanted to stress on. Now, how do we approach this problem for customers? Right? To be honest, there's no one single solution or a silver bullet for a lot of customers, right? It's a modernization journey that we talk about. So we always start from the first thing that a lot of customers that we talk to is about augmenting the mainframe. And I think a lot of you are already doing that from a fact of API enablement of the mainframe. That's always been done. So that's one thing that we encourage customers to continue to do that where it's appropriate. The bigger thing that we're talking about is moving data or copying data from mainframe into GCP. There's a lot of benefits for that because once you move the data or copy the data over to cloud, now you can actually build a lot more analytics, a lot more applications, cloud-native applications on GCP, right? It's easier to access the data that's in files, vSAM files, and things like that, which are very proprietary to the mainframe, right? So you get rid of all of that with this. But you can still keep your mainframe running in the meantime. Your core system of record is still there, right? But this enables you to react faster to the business, give you new value, new things to the business, The second thing, and we have a solution for that, which is called the Mainframe connector, right? Which is actually an open source solution, and I'll double click into that in the next few slides. The next thing is there are some customers who come to us and say, hey, I want to quickly get out of my data center, right? They have a data center exit strategy, and they want to be, host their infrastructure by Google, right? So with respect to that, we have a solution called IP4G. It's IBM Power for Google, which is actually aimed at AIX and AS400 workloads. While for the mainframe, we don't have an official offering yet. We are working with partners, a lot of partners here like Kyndryl and DXC and Wipro and others to actually help host these workloads in data centers close to Google Cloud, right? And that will help customers exit the data center. The next one is a re-platform solution. A lot of customers come to us and say, hey, I'm pretty happy with it being in COBOL, but the cost factor is pretty huge for me. I'm paying IBM a lot of money. I'm paying the ISVs a lot of money. So can you help me stay on COBOL? Can you help me move to cloud as the first step in the modernization journey? Right? With respect to that, we have a re-platforming solution, which is called Dualrun. And I'll go into it in a little bit detail, and that helps you accelerate the journey to re-platforming. Okay? Typically, I don't want to steal Brian and Santander's thunder, so I'll let them describe that solution and actually how it actually works with respect to that. Then the next one is refactor. We have Google solution, which is G4, which is code conversion. So there are a lot of customers who come to us and say, hey, I don't want to be in COBOL anymore. I have no talent. I'm struggling to react to business very quickly, right? So can I move to Java quickly? But I have 1 million lines of code or 10 million lines of code. If I go down the rewrite path, it's going to take me a long time, right? And so we have a solution which is called G4, which we kind of acquired 3 years ago from Cornerstone. And it actually takes the code, converts it to Java, we can run in containers. Now what it buys you is you're on GCP in a cloud-native environment, modern tooling, access to more skills. The other important thing is in a lot of enterprises, 70-80% of the code is not maintained on a regular basis, right? In the mainframe, only 20-30% is maintained. What this allows you is to get quickly off the platform, and then you can focus on the 20-30% and do a rewrite. By the way, I don't know how many of you were attended the developer keynote. All right, not many. Okay, I don't know. Initially, when I joined Google, I was always thinking about mainframe and Google in the same sentence. I was not sure whether they'll ever be there, but then I heard the Roots actually making a hip-hop thing about mainframe. So I was like, okay, we are cool right now, right? So that was actually a big surprise for me to say, okay, even the Roots know about mainframe right now. Lastly, we are, a lot of customers, and I've talked to a few of them even in this conference, they actually want to reimagine and change their business processes and actually undergo digital transformation. Google helps with respect to that, right, with respect to rewriting. And in both these solutions, one important aspect that you see there is there's this Gen AI piece that was added, right? It was not there before, to be honest, right? But as the buzzword and everybody is very interested in Gen AI right now, we've started exploring that right now. And we will actually have something out pretty soon that you can share. While we have all of our solutions, we also have partner solutions along the way. Now, I'm just going to go quickly through some case studies here. We've had some customers that we've actually had success with. Bo Vista is a public customer reference. AREC is a public customer reference where we actually got them got mainframe workload running on GCP using different solutions. We also have a data-first solution with one of the largest retailers in the world. In fact, the mainframe connector was built there and actually open sourced after that. And then, of course, we just recently did a refactor with G4 for a large global bank from an AS400 platform and got it out on Google Cloud. Now, from a Google Solutions point of view, this is the augment solution that we're talking about, where we tell customers as a strategy, please copy your data onto GCP, because It helps you build a lot more new applications on GCP much faster, cloud native and all of this. And also, the rate at which innovation happens on the cloud is much faster than what you can get on-prem. You can have vendors who give you analytic solutions, but the rate at which the innovation happens on cloud is much faster. So this is actually something that's very important that you can take a look at. We have a variety of partner solutions as well that we actually recommend working with to help you move in case you need CDC. Next. This is just a detailed description of what the solution is all about. The mainframe connector actually helps you migrate data. As long as you can get the data into a flat file with a COBOL copybook, we can actually help you migrate in a batch-oriented way to GCP, into BigQuery. Right? So this is a pretty standard, simple solution. It'll take you 1 month to actually get this up and running, and you're done. Right? So it's pretty repetitive. In case you need CDC, then you start looking at partner solutions. Talking about G4, I just want to put one slide about G4. Our approach is code conversion, and our target is Kubernetes. On the left side, you see all the languages, the things that we currently support as a tool. On the right side is the target platform that we aim for, right? It's Spring Boot, Angular, containerized, Java batch running in Kubernetes. That's our target platform. So now, Kubernetes. The reason we didn't go to Cloud Run right now is some customers don't want Cloud Run because it's actually running outside of their control in a tenant in GCP. So that's one of the reasons why we chose Kubernetes. But it very well could run on Cloud Run. There's nothing stopping that. Now, Brian, over to you for Dualrun.
Thank you. Okay, so let me this Dualrun. So there are many challenges and opportunities in modernizing your legacy applications. So you have a mainframe on the left, and you have customers and other organizations try to use your mainframe, trusted mainframe, and also mainframe send out some outputs, right? With a solid line, it works, it meets business needs. But when it comes down to the modernizing the application, especially in the mainframe modernization, there are two challenges, right? One of the many challenges, I would say, is testability, whether it can be tested, and also whether it can be validated functionally and non-functionally. This is trusted platform, right? You want to have ability to test it in real environment alongside with the production mainframe. And then you want to be able to see the behavior of the new system, functionally, non-functionally, along with, in parallel with mainframe, right? So there are two types of workload, and you will have to migrate the application first. So we will have application on GCP, assisted with our AMS. We have a automation suite for you to migrate and assisting in migrating your existing application assets to GCP. When that's done, there are two types of workload. First one would be typical batch, where batch job scheduler will handle all the schedules and everything. You will have a similar or the same scheduler on GCP. So you will be able to run it on GCP, but will give you an ability to compare the outputs and set up your key performance metrics, indicators that you can keep track of in seeing it through the monitoring capability, right? Then there will be online, where you will have interactive customers coming in. Our launcher will taking care of sending out the same transaction into your mainframe with a solid line to GCP. The dotted line meaning our GCP system will be running alongside with the mainframe, but it will compare the output for you so that you will be able to see all the online behaviors, including functional, non-functional behavior, through a single pane of glass. So that you'll be able to see it through the monitoring so that you'll be able to see all the workload and behavior in a single pane of glass, almost real time, right? So then we have another last concept is you're running two systems independently. There may be some discrepancies not coming from the defect, but sometimes time differences, a little bit of dispatching issues and such. So we'll have a little bit of discrepancies, but you will have to use the mainframe as a system of record so that we will be able to reconcile little differences to the secondary, which is on GCP, so that the comparison, everything will keep going on without incurring any too much discrepancies. That's the basic concept. The last one is the message coming out or files coming out from two systems out to the world. We will also be able to compare it and set up KPIs so that you will be able to keep monitoring it. So that's the basic concept. Then when it comes down to how it can be done, smooth transition to the GCP, right? The first one is as is. You have a mainframe, trusted mainframe serving the public and business. Then we will be engaging Dualrun the same way I just presented it. But you see these solid lines. Every interaction from in and out from the mainframe will be receiving by the outside customers. So there will be no impact. But your new modernized system will be running concurrently, doing the comparison until you fine-tune it, you correct any issues coming up. Then the moment where you are confident in switching over to the new system, that's the third phase, where the GCP will be serving the public, but your mainframe will be sitting behind the scene in case, just in case. But we won't recommend this phase to be too long, but you will have a freedom of going back if in case. Then everything works fine, then you will decommission the Dualrun, then your GCP will be serving your business. That's the brief introduction. And let me introduce Alejandro for his experience.
Okay, thank you very much, Brian. Okay, so first a little bit of context. Here in Santander, we operate in 10 main geographies. We have two core banking solutions, one for Europe, one in North America, and another one for South America. And even though these platforms were resilient, they were stable, they were performant, we were facing some challenges. Challenges because these platforms had been built 20 plus years ago, so we were facing challenges around time to market, about efficiency. And that's why back in time, a few years ago, we started a digital transformation of our core banking solutions. We wanted to move from a monolithic, mainframe-based, heavily batched platforms into a new digital, cloud-based, API, event-driven platform. There were several goals that we wanted to achieve with this transformation. One of them was cost reduction. Usually, we wanted to adopt a new cloud-based, cost-efficient platform. We want to attain sustainability. We are seeing that increasing transactional volumes year on year, so that the flexibility that a cloud-based platform would give us would help us in managing these additional volumes while maintaining the highest standards in terms of resiliency, availability, and security. Third one, as I was mentioning before, the time to market. We were having some challenges in keeping up pace with the change in our backend systems compared to what we do in our front-end systems. Therefore, by the adoption of a new ALMM stack, we were planning to reduce the time that we require for developing new products and services and to reduce the time for getting that into the market. Real time, as I was mentioning, these platforms were built 20 plus years ago. They were built under the paradigms of that point in time, heavily batched. Many of the important things were happening overnight. So we are kind of evolving these environments, building event-driven platforms so that we move into a more real-time core banking solutions, app-based. Some of the challenges that we were facing as well was that it was difficult to interact with the applications that we have in the mainframe. There was complexity there, so in order to abstract that complexity for the front-end developers, we were setting up an API belt that would provide and expose the products and services that we have in our core banking solutions in a standard way, which at the same time will also be very helpful in sense of reusability, so that we can build once and we can reuse that new application across the different entities within the group. And lastly, data-driven, right? Access to data in the mainframe was kind of cumbersome sometimes. So with this movement, what we want to do is to facilitate the access to that data in order to be able to build business intelligence and so on. So one of the key elements in order to achieve all these goals was, first one, moving into a modern cloud-based platform. It was a key enabler for all the different things that we are doing in order to evolve our core banking solutions. First thing we did back in time was to, okay, let's go to the market, let's see which native core banking solutions do we have there that we can use out of the box. However, we didn't find any that would fit all the requirements. So the decision was taken to let's try to evolve these core banking platforms in-house. Second challenge that we were facing once we took that decision is, okay, how do we do that? How do we convince our stakeholders, internal regulators, that the new platform will be up to standards, that the new platform will be fit for purpose? And this is when we came up with the Dualrun solution. What is Dualrun? Brian has already explained it, but basically what we wanted to do is that we wanted to test the new cloud environment with real production data, real production volumes and conditions prior to setting up this new environment as the primary one. For doing so, we developed a set of tools that would allow us to set up the new platform in cloud and run it in parallel with the mainframe environment. For that, as Brian has been explaining, we developed a set of tools that would allow us first to automate the conversion of the code that we run in the mainframe so that it could be run in the new runtime in cloud. Second is the different tools that we use to capture all the incoming traffic that we have in our mainframes, dualize it to the new environment. And then a set of dashboards that would pick up the outcomes from the mainframe, from the new cloud-based environment, and compare the outputs and show them to our team so that we could certify both from a technical and functional perspective that the behavior of the new environment was similar to the one that we had in the mainframe. Third one, we also had a set of tools that would allow us during the stabilization period of the Dualrun to keep on the data in the mainframe and the data in the cloud environment in sync. And lastly, a set of tools that allow us to make sure that we do not have duplicated outputs, so that only the primary environment is the one that is engaging with the outside world of the mainframe. And what we were trying to achieve with this solution, first is to accelerate the transition to cloud, facilitate this transition to cloud. As I was saying before, these core banking solutions had been built 20 plus years ago, so using a traditional approach for testing the new environment would be really, really difficult. Setting up that amount of unitary test cases would imply a lot of effort across the organization, so that by doing this Dualrun, it allows us to simplify that approach and as well make sure that we can test 100% the new environment. Second thing is reducing the transition risks. Risk management is really key in this kind of projects. So therefore, by running both environments in parallel, we had the opportunity to fall back to the mainframe at the beginning of the transition in case anything goes wrong. And lastly, another very important thing that we wanted to achieve here is now to minimal disruption to business. So as we do not need to engage the operational teams across all the organization for that unitary test development and execution, we would minimize the impact that we have on our book of work. As well, we set up mechanisms that allow us to deploy the new developments into the mainframe and deploy them as well in the new cloud-based environment so that we keep them in sync during the Dualrun period, so that the book of work, the developments, the evolution that is taking place elsewhere in the organization can continue without disruption while we are doing this Dualrun in the move to the cloud. Now, we are getting into what we are doing with GCP. The scope of the project, what we are doing is our core banking or backend solution that we use for SCAB, which is our Santander Corporate Investment Bank division. we are moving that backend to Google Cloud. From a functional perspective, what do we have in this environment is the accounting, payments. We have applications related to the market and treasury operations of our corporate and investment banking division, along with several structural systems about customer database and product database. Here we have a few figures that provide some insight in terms of the size of the environment that we're talking about. We have around 20,000 core programs, 2,900 different fixed transactions. We're running on a daily basis around 7,600 JCLs in our batch executions. There are more than 1,000 files being transferred outside. After that batch execution, there are around 5,500 different DB2 tables. And in terms of volumes, what we have in this environment is plus 1 million fixed transactions a day, more than 2 million accounting operations per day as well. In terms of transactions, online transactions, we have peaks of around 150 transactions per second. And now moving into how has been our journey. We started January this year by deploying the landing zones and the environments at GCP that we will be using for running these applications at Google Cloud. It was the first time that we were doing such a scale project at Google Cloud, so that the support that we received from your teams were very helpful at that point in time. Once we had set up the new environment at cloud, we migrated data, software, and by April, approximately, we were already doing the Dualrun in pre-production. Following that Dualrun in pre-production, we moved into the production environments. Production environments were ready around June. We started Dualrun in production around early July. And now, next steps, we are planning to do the final certification during the September month, and with the target of achieving or setting the new cloud environment as the primary one by October. Key figures here, we did achieve around 99% automation transformation of the software that we had in Mainframe on the adaptation for the new cloud runtime environment. We are expecting 30% plus cost savings with this new environment, and in terms of the timeline, we are expecting to complete it within 10 months. And lastly, why Google Cloud? Well, there were many different reasons why we choose Google. I mean, technical capabilities of GCP were exactly what we were looking for in terms of security, resiliency, availability. Our engineers love working with GCP. Support, I was mentioning it before, the support that we have received from the Google Professional Services in terms of designing these new environments have been very good across all this journey. Innovation, I mean, Google Innovation Track is amazing, so that it was the right partner for further evolving this Dualrun solution and bringing it to the market. And lastly, we also wanted to leverage on the new GCP region that was set up in Madrid. Apart from this, there were other things that we took into consideration around the data and AI capabilities that Google Cloud has, and which will definitely help us in further evolving our platforms in the future.
Do you want to also talk about the journey with, how you accelerated the journey from the first time to the second time? You want to mention something about that?
Oh, sure. I mean, we have already completed the project that we did in the UK corporate bank that was put into production in September last year. Then we also did a program in consumer Chile. And definitely, what we are seeing is that once the solution was mature, because when we did the first project, we were still developing the solution. But now that it has been developed, it has been tested, there is a noticeable reduction in the time that we require since since we deploy the new environment at the cloud, and we start the Dualrun and we go through the cycle. As you know, the methodology that we are following, we set up the new environment at cloud. We do first the technical Dualrun. Technical Dualrun meaning that we are at that point in time looking into making sure that we have a complete Dualrun, the technical stabilization of the environment, that from a technical perspective, the figures and the times that we have in this environment are correct, and then we move into the certification or functional Dualrun, in which we involve the business, we involve the operations teams in order to provide them with the evidences that we get from the dashboards that provide them evidence that the new environment is behaving exactly the same way that it was doing in the mainframe. And the time that we require to go through this process has been decreasing once the solution has been mature and once we have completed it in previous countries.